Welcome to the Meso-History, unraveling the untidy truths of the past. Like and subscribe.
A single piece of paper can hold a secret for centuries. This one did. It is a map, drawn in the year 1585. For over 400 years, it sat under glass, showing the coastline of a new world. To the naked eye, it appeared complete, a finished record of a brave exploration. But history is rarely so simple. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones that are hidden. We now know this map was not entirely what it seemed. Small patches of paper were carefully placed upon its surface, concealing what lay beneath. They were almost invisible, blending into the aged parchment like a whisper. These patches were a mystery hiding in plain sight. They were corrections, perhaps. Or maybe they were something more. They were questions waiting for the right tools to ask them. Now, in our time, those tools have arrived. Using advanced imaging technology, a team of researchers decided to look closer. They bathed the ancient map in different wavelengths of light. They used powerful X-rays to peer through the delicate layers of paper and ink. Slowly, painstakingly, the map began to give up a story it had held silent for so long, and they were beginning to open. The process was like watching a ghost appear. On the screen, faint lines and symbols started to emerge from beneath the patches. The hidden ink, shielded from the light of centuries, was still there. It told a different story than the one the world knew. The most startling revelation was a fort, a symbol drawn in red and blue ink, hidden under a patch. This was not a location on the coast, where the colony was thought to be. This symbol was placed farther inland, nestled between the forks of a river. It was a place no one had ever associated with the lost colony. It was a clue that could change everything we thought we knew. This hidden fort, this secret place, has been given a name. It is called Site X. The discovery sent a current of excitement through the world of history and archaeology. For generations, the search for the lost colonists of Roanoke was focused on the coast, on the island where they were last seen. The searchers were looking where the colonists were supposed to be. But what if they went somewhere else? What if they had a plan to move, to disappear not into the sea, but into the vast, unknown continent that stretched before them? The map, with its quiet patch, suggested a deliberate, hidden path away from the dangers of the open ocean. The discovery of Site X on a map was one thing. Finding it on the ground was another. Archaeologists traveled to the location suggested by the hidden symbol. They arrived at a quiet patch of land in Bertie County, North Carolina. It was a place called Mary Hill, a gentle rise of earth, overlooking the waters of Albemarle Sound. It was here, at the spot marked by the invisible ink, that they began to dig. They pushed their shovels into the soft earth, hoping to find a trace, any sign at all, that the colonists had been there. The work was slow and methodical. Every handful of dirt was a question. And then they found something. It was not a fort made of stone. It was not a treasure chest of gold. They found pieces of broken pottery. Archaeologists carefully brushing dirt from a small, curved shard of pottery. These were not just any fragments. Experts identified them as borderware and other types of English ceramics from the late 16th century. This was the kind of pottery a settler from England would have used to cook a meal or drink water. The style, the material, the very make of these shards connected them to the time of the Roanoke colony. They were like a voice calling out from the soil after more than 400 years of silence. The collection of artifacts grew. More pottery emerged from the ground. These were not native pieces. They were distinctly European. They were found in a concentrated area, suggesting a settlement. The presence of this English pottery, so far inland, was a powerful piece of evidence. It transformed the theory of Site X from a speculation based on a map into a tangible possibility grounded in the earth. Someone from England had been here, in this exact spot, and they had been here at the right time. The quiet forest floor was beginning to look like the home of the lost colonists. The pieces told a quiet story of survival. These were not the belongings of wealthy governors or explorers on a grand mission. They were the simple, everyday objects of families trying to build a new life. A piece of a cup, a fragment of a cooking pot. Each shard was a connection to a person, to a moment in time. Holding one of these fragments is like holding a direct link to the past. It feels heavy with the weight of the mystery. The discovery of this pottery at Site X did not solve the puzzle of Roanoke, but it provided the most promising lead in centuries. It pointed the search in a new, unexpected direction. Why would the colonists hide their destination? Why would they cover a fort on their map with a patch of paper? To understand their secrecy, we have to understand their fear. In the late 1580s, England was on a collision course with Spain. Queen Elizabeth and King Philip II were bitter rivals. England was a small Protestant nation challenging the might of Catholic Spain. The English were sending explorers, privateers like Sir Francis Drake. It was a Cold War that was about to turn hot. The settlers at Roanoke were on the front line. Their small outpost was a direct challenge to Spain's claims. They knew they were vulnerable. Spanish ships patrolled the coastline. The Spanish had already destroyed a French colony in Florida. The colonists lived with the constant threat of discovery and annihilation. Their governor John White sailed back to England for supplies in 1587. He left his daughter, his granddaughter Virginia Dare, and the rest of the colony. He expected to return quickly, but his return was delayed by a monumental event. In 1588, Spain unleashed the Spanish Armada. A massive fleet of over 130 warships sailed for England. All of England's resources, all of its ships and sailors were dedicated to defending the homeland. There was nothing to spare for a small colony across the ocean. John White was trapped, unable to return. The Roanoke colonists were left completely alone on the edge of a continent with the shadow of the Spanish Navy looming over the Atlantic. Fear would have been their constant companion. This historical context makes the hidden fort at Site X make perfect sense. It was a contingency plan. If the Spanish attacked the coastal settlement, the colonists would have a pre-arranged place to retreat, a hidden inland location, far from the prying eyes of Spanish warships. The patch on the map was not a mistake. It was a security measure. It was designed to keep their fallback position a secret. Hiding inland, among friendly Native American tribes, would have been their best, perhaps only, chance for survival in a world at war. When Governor John White was finally able to return to Roanoke in 1590, he found the settlement abandoned. There were no signs of a struggle. The houses had been taken down. The only clue left behind was a single word carved into a post of the fort's palisade. That word was Croatoan. For centuries, this word has been the heart of the mystery. It was the name of a nearby island, now called Hatteras Island. It was also the name of a friendly tribe of Native Americans who lived there. The colonists had told White that if they moved, they would carve their destination on a tree. For a long time, the simplest explanation seemed to be the most likely one. The colonists had gone to Croatoan Island to live with their native allies. Searches on the island have yielded some tantalizing clues over the years, but never definitive proof of the entire colony relocating there. The word seemed to point south, along the coast. But the discovery of Site X, far to the west and inland, forces us to look at this old clue in a new light. What if Croatoan was not just a destination? What if it was part of a larger message, a more complex signal? The Croatoan people were not only on the island. Their influence and tribal lands extended onto the mainland, into the very territory where Site X is located. The word carved on the post may have been an indicator of who the colonists were with, not just where they were going. The hidden fort on the map shows they had a plan to move inland. The pottery at Site X shows that some of them likely did. The word Croatoan now serves as the bridge connecting these two powerful pieces of evidence. We stand today closer than ever to understanding the fate of the lost colony. Yet, the mystery is not fully solved. It has simply become deeper, richer, and more complex. The faded ink on an old map has led us to a quiet field. The pottery shards in that field give voice to the colonists, and a single, cryptic word carved on a post now echoes with new meaning. The search is not over. The questions have only multiplied. The map kept its secret for centuries. Now its quiet patches ask us to listen to the silent earth.